Hello everyone, I'm still here, and welcome back to another tech tutorial. In today's episode, I'll give you a quick reference guide for the Slingshot tech. I'll explain what the tech is, give you the inputs for all the variations, share a training strategy, and go over some common mistakes. If you want more info on applications, it's rather character dependent, but Gimmer does a good job overgoing potential applications in his 2 long videos on the tech, so check those out if you haven't already. So, the Slingshot tech is yet another method for jumping with momentum in the direction opposite to where a character is facing. It's somewhat similar to attack cancelling and almost identical to instant reverse arrow rushes. I'll first introduce the inputs for the base Slingshot tech so we can understand why it's good and how it differs from the arrow method that I previously introduced. So to Slingshot, you dash in a direction with the analog stick, then in the initial dash frames you input analog stick diagonally down and away from your dash directions. After that, for optimal input speed and momentum, you jump at the same time as a diagonal input and let go of the analog before your jump squat ends, and then you get a slingshot. Now the difference between Slingshot and IRR is that the turnaround input is a diagonal input for Slingshot, whereas it's a full left or right directional input for IRR. In most cases, there's not going to be much of a difference between the two in terms of speed, so you definitely don't have to unlearn your IRRs. The advantage of diagonal input is most noticeable when you want to input IRR out of end lag. For example, say you just landed with a move and you want to IRR. You would buffer the dash, wait for it to come out, and then input the opposite direction and jump at the same time. If you inputted the opposite direction too early, you'd override the forward dash. In the case of Slingshot, however, you do a diagonal input, which just makes you crouch so it doesn't override the dash. This means you can buffer both the analog inputs. You buffer the forward dash and you buffer the diagonal input, and you only have to time the jump. If you're already very proficient with IRRs and know the end lags of your move well, you might not see much of a difference in general. If you were already hitting those jab IRR back airs or down tilt IRR back airs and so on, there's no real reason to change your approach. Usually combo windows are large enough that the couple frames you might gain here won't matter too much. However, in cases where every frame matters, like shield pressure situations, the Slingshot method of buffered arrows does lead to more consistently optimal movement out of end lag. You can also let go of the analog stick earlier and have quicker control over your momentum. Let's go over the inputs one more time and then introduce the momentum variations that this method allows. So first you dash with the analog stick, then immediately after you input and hold the opposite diagonal direction, then while holding diagonal you jump. Finally, depending on the drift you want, you might let go of the analog stick during jump squat frames or input some other direction. Now to be a little more precise on how this works during end lag, both the dash and the diagonal angle can be buffered while in end lag up to 6 frames before your first active frame after a move. In terms of diagonal input, diagonal up and down both work. I recommend diagonal down because it'll buffer a crouch, while diagonal up buffers a walk, but it's really up to you what feels more natural. Now the jump part cannot be buffered, so you want to input jump as soon as you exit end lag. How optimal your slingshots will be basically comes down to how well you judge the end lag of your moves, which depends on which move you use, if you hit a shield or maybe if you whiffed, if they parried, move stalling impacts this as well. This is where the difficulty comes from and also the optimization. So that's the base of the Slingshot tech. All the other tech Gimmer talks about depends on what you do after the jump. For example, the flick shot is when you immediately let go of the analog, optimally during your 3 jump squat frames, so you get the most backwards momentum. The hold shot is when you hold the diagonal direction, so that you drift back inside, but kinda slowly. And the full shot is when you hold directly in after the jump for maximum drift in. You don't have to worry about the names too much, suffice to say that when the jump squat starts, you can do whatever you want. You can short hop backwards, you can full hop, you can have maximum drift backwards or maximum drift forward or any kind of micro spacing you want. You can buffer normal attacks, you can buffer special attacks, you can use any kind of movement your character enables like wave bounces, wave lands, whatever. Once the jump squat starts, basically Slingshot is done, you can do whatever you want after that. Now if you're trying to learn slingshots, it can be quite tricky, so I recommend you break it down into the following steps. First, with a move you might want to use slingshot out of, like a safe landing aerial or a grounded poke. With the move, and then buffer dash and diagonal down in the other direction. If done correctly, you'll just dash and crouch. Practice this over and over, left and right, and you'll get used to the analog stick directions in no time. Then add in the jump input, and don't worry about drift. You should just turn around and jump, and then drift back forwards. Practice this with different moves, whiffing, hitting, or hitting shields to get used to the different scenarios. Then finally, you can practice different drift options after the slingshot, and then shield pressure strings that are enabled by your character, or add in some special movement and you have those, just basically character dependent stuff. Now if you're having trouble with slingshots, here are some common errors and how to fix them. So if you jump with forward momentum instead of backwards momentum, you're either inputting dash too early, before the allowed buffer window of 6 frames, or you input the jump while still being in end lag, overriding your buffered dash. Either way, there's some input that you need to slow down. If you have the correct momentum but you're not turning around, you might be inputting the jump before the diagonal input. Now if you're not buffering the diagonal input, it's optimal to press diagonal and jump at the same time, but you don't have to. You can essentially hold diagonal for the duration of the dash and jump at any time. It's lenient in one direction but not the other, so don't try to rush your jump too much. Another mistake that might be happening, if you have the correct momentum but are not turning around, is that you have the wrong diagonal angle on the analog stick. If you input 2 up or 2 down, you won't turn around. Finally, I want to mention 2 techniques that are closely related to slingshots. They are enabled by this bufferable diagonal input. You can get very consistent turnaround grabs by buffering dash in one direction, diagonal down in the other, and then grabbing when you're out of end lag. You can actually delay the grab as long as you want during the dash, and that allows you to get different spacings on the turnaround grab, which is very useful for catching characters with different roll distances, for example. You can also get very consistent jump cancel turnaround up smashes. This is useful because while up smash and up B can cancel dashes, only the latter can be turned around during the dash. You can't do that with up smash unless you jump. So to do this, you dash in one direction, input diagonal up in the other, and then press jump, let go of jump, and then press A while in jump squat and still holding diagonal up. This seems hard because you only have 3 frames of jump squat, but personally I just slide my finger from the Y button to the A button and it's really not that difficult. In any case, you'll turn around during the jump squat and then cancel that jump with an up smash. Very character specific if this is useful, probably a small optimization, but it's kind of a bonus you get from mastering Slingshot. Well, that's it. I hope this video gets you on your way to learning slingshots, as it is truly an impactful gameplay optimization for most characters. If it does, consider giving the video a thumbs up, subscribing, sharing this with your friends. Also, as always, you can catch me grinding slingshots in training mode on twitch.tv/HiveSteel. I think you'll find it's truly riveting content. Until next time, keep practicing and doing your best.